Welcome to another CrossViews Friday Fast 15s. I'm Karin Glazier, Senior Director of Marketing here at CrossViews, and today I am joined by Justin Meadows, one of our solutions consultants. Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Karen. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm super excited to talk to you. You have a wealth of knowledge around ServiceNow, and I know today in particular, we want to talk about ServiceNow's safe workplace applications, which I know have been getting a lot of buzz. I know our
hmm
customers are asking a lot about them. We've implemented quite a few of them. And those applications are really about preparing the workforce and the workplace to effectively resume operations during any type of crisis, no matter if that crisis is very individualized to that business or if it's impacting that business as well as, quite honestly, their society or even the world, like the pandemic we're dealing with right now. So, wanted to dive a little bit into that today. And, with the applications building on the same user friendly architecture and automations that are hallmark to the ServiceNow platform, the apps bring consistency and structure to how a business operates during and even after a crisis. So I thought we could jump into some really basic questions about this topic. And to start, what are these applications? Can you touch a little bit on that?
Sure. There's actually four different applications. There's an employee readiness survey application, employee health screening, workplace safety management, and workplace personal protective equipment, or PPE, inventory management applications. I like to think of these as addressing four needs for the organization for facilitating the return to the workplace and ensuring employee safety once they've actually returned. The readiness survey application helps an organization gauge employee sentiment and preferences for returning to work and what resources and processes will be in place upon their return. I think of this as a great tool to solicit feedback from your employees and adjust processes and procedures based on that feedback. I think that app leads well into the second app, employee health screening, which enables a designated screener to ensure that the returning employee is not sick and has the appropriate PPE for their role in that organization. The last two apps, workplace safety management and workplace PPE inventory management, can be used to facilitate clean workspaces or implement a reservation and assignment system for those workspaces, and then track the available or assigned PPE equipment for those employees and locations.
It sounds like several apps that a lot of businesses need, right? I mean, I think it's all about not just um, dealing with the crisis at hand, but it's being prepared for a crisis that might come up.
Sure, exactly.
hmm So Justin, how has, because that sounds like a lot of automation, right? It's a lot of
hmm
workflow automation, it's a lot of process automation, that sort of thing, getting kind of everybody flowing and operations running when times get a little tough. So, where does automation play in society? Why is it so important today?
Well, that's a really big question that probably deserves a book, but I'll try to keep it concise. In the context of workplace safety, I think what we're doing is we're automating repeatable processes that enable three important benefits from my perspective. That's scalability, consistency, which you've already mentioned, and elimination of the need to repeatedly solve the same problem. So those first two benefits, scalability and consistency, are really easy to see. Through automation, we can do more with less, right? So we can scale and we can ensure what's being done is consistent, has a consistent workflow that meets the needs of the organization, meets the needs of the employees, but maybe even creates a consistent and we hope wonderful user experience, right? The third benefit, not having to repeatedly solve the same problem, means that each division or department of an organization doesn't have to figure out how to survey, screen, and manage workspaces and PPE all, over and over and over again. So there may be nuances to each of the smaller units in the organization, but the general process and workflow can be consistent. I think ServiceNow has taken this problem a bit, or the step a bit further by zooming out to like a worldview, since we're all going through the same thing at the moment, by creating a framework for any organization to not have to repeatedly solve the same problem we're all facing. The fact that there are 4 different apps too means that an organization can use one, some, or all of them depending on their needs. In the end, Karen, I think on a broader level, automation eliminates needless variation, decreases workflow cycle time, and enables stakeholders in the automated process to focus more on the steps and contributions where they add the most value and benefit.
Hmm. So what type of organizations would benefit from these sort of applications? Is there a certain type of organization, any organization?
I think that any organization is going to benefit from these. I mean, even here at CrossFuse, we're a mostly work from home organization, but we do have offices in shared work environments for which all these applications will be beneficial to bringing back our teams and keeping them safe.
Hmm. Yeah, I know how important that is. Obviously, we're right in the middle of all that ourselves. So how long does it take to implement these applications?
Well, technically speaking, not very long at all. I think the employee readiness and the screening applications are essentially ready to use as soon as they're installed, assuming you don't make any changes to the configuration specific to your organization. The workplace safety management and PPE inventory management applications may take a bit longer since you need to import data specific to your company, such as locations, workspaces, or rooms, or conference rooms and the actual PPE inventory. That's going to vary, if you're in a healthcare environment versus an office environment, right? This PPE needs vary. But I think that any implementation should always take into consideration the organizational change management component, which is itself a time factor. So, as you know, Karen, we're all being bombarded with constant change at the moment. So, I think this is more important now than it ever has been. Introducing new applications, new procedures, new processes to your company should be done thoughtfully and be communicated well. And that communication includes the why in addition to the how, right? So as part of that, many organizations may want to configure these apps to their needs. And that's, I think, the beauty of these being on the Now platform is that configuration can be done quickly and simply using the same tools and resources we use every day to manage our instances.
Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine how quick you have to turn around communication, not just flick the switch on some new workflows and processes
Right.
with these sort of applications, but also let people know you're doing that
Yeah.
and how to use them and when to use them and what that ultimately that business outcome will be when they use them for their day-to-day operations. So I know we've implemented these for several customers now. What are typical questions or even concerns that they have as it pertains to getting these in place, getting them up and running, and getting users using them?
Well, actually, the previous question about how much level of effort is probably the one we're hearing the most is, how long is it going to take me to implement these and how soon can I use them? The other one that we hear a lot is how much does it cost? And my understanding is that these are free from the ServiceNow store, similar to the emergency response applications they released a few months ago. And of course, I always say that and say you need to verify with your ServiceNow rep too before you do anything that may impact licensing.
Hmm. Hmm. And that's great, right? Because if we're having to negotiate price or services, that sort of thing, it slows the process down. And in the center of a crisis, you have no time to spare, so
Right.
you have to
Yeah.
move quickly. So this is our world today. These are apps that are helping us with the situation we're dealing with today, and getting us through what that looks like during and hopefully soon after
Hmm.
this crisis that we're dealing with. But looking long term into our crystal ball of the future, are these apps that can actually help and deal with other crises? It could be a natural disaster, it could be pandemic, it could be other things. Talk a little bit about where these things can be used in the future as well.
Sure. I'm going to go after the easy one first. And I think that in the immediate longer term, that we're definitely going to be using these, right? Because our public health officials are telling us that, as we open back up, there may be smaller, pockets of outbreaks and maybe even a larger wave in the fall, like which is our typical annual flu season. So you might be able to use these in those flare-ups that happen. So there might be a couple life cycles of us, being sent back home and then coming back to the workplace. But I think thinking about the cold and flu season is important too, because most of us have been in an office environment where we've seen office spread, like one person on a team goes down and then all of a sudden a couple more go down. So, you could actually probably use these to prevent that in the future as well, where you have a good 2 to 3 weeks of people being sick and not being able to contribute at work. But Karen, I think the kind of more profound thing for me is I think we're all going to think differently about cleanliness and sanitation from this point forward. I think for those of us that are going to remember the severity of being in lockdown and what it's done to our lives and the economy, that things like workplace safety management, keeping things clean or cleaning between uses, tracking personal protective equipment may have a longer shelf life than we initially thought.
I hope it does. I hope it does. That just puts, I think, everybody at ease. This was a big shock for everybody. And just to know we have applications that can kind of coach and support people through a process that keeps everybody safe puts minds at ease. And I think that helps to keep the workplace flowing and calm and productive as well. And of course, morale up. So, Justin, how can Crossviews help folks implement these applications? What would that process be? How can they get in touch with us? That sort of thing.
Sure, yeah. So I think what makes us a great implementation partner is the ability for us to just fit in where we're needed. So that could mean technical assistance with the installation of the apps, setting up all those workspaces and inventory like we talked about. It could mean advisory assistance around processes and procedures specific to your organization or the organization we're working with. And finally, I think what we're really good at is enhanced workflows that tie different parts of the platform together to automate even more and provide a great user experience. I want to give an example of that. So let's say we have a positive screening, meaning someone is trying to come back to work and they test negative for the virus, so we're going to return them to work. That may actually need to kick off different ITSM and HR workflows related to equipment, access, security, return of equipment that they were using while they were working from home. So I think the beauty again of these applications is they're on the Now platform, which means we, Crossviews, can help organizations not just implement them, but expand on the base functionality that they provide. So a well-designed or not or a well-designed and well-aligned workflow can actually make things great can make things better and a great user experience.
Hmm. It's true. It's always about expansion. As crisis to crisis or situation to situation, there's always some new needs
Hmm.
and concerns that arise. And it's nice to know that those applications and our ability to help with those applications are very flexible and scalable.
Yep.
So Justin, this was awesome to talk to you. It's definitely a set of applications that are much needed,
Hmm.
and it's nice to know that they give us some peace of mind today, and they give us some preparedness for tomorrow. So I appreciate the time we spent together today, and for all of you who are watching, I hope you found great value in this. And if you have any questions or just want to continue this conversation, always feel free to reach out to us at letstalk@crossviews.com. Thank you so much. Thanks, Justin. Have a great day.
Thanks, Karen. Be safe.
Take care. You too.